Hello, dear friends. Asterisk. Today we plant hope in a world that says it's too late, in a city that has forgotten the smell of rain. We choose to believe that even the smallest seed can change everything, because today we don't wait for miracles, we plant them. This is the story of Arun, a young botanist who refuses to give up hope in a city choked by pollution and despair. Arun was only 9 when the city stopped smelling like rain. The air outside tasted metallic, like chewing on coins. People wore masks that hid their faces, and children's playgrounds stood empty. Dust settling on rusted swings. Trees, what few still clung to life, were brown skeletons, their leaves long since gone. Arun's grandmother, Nirmala, was one of the last people who remembered when the city was green. She told him stories about monsoon mornings when the whole neighborhood smelled of wet earth, about mango trees so heavy with fruit that children would climb and eat until juice ran down their elbows. Most people dismissed her tales as nostalgia, the way old people talked about the good old days that never really existed. But Arun believed her, not because he'd seen those things, but because when she spoke of them, her eyes lit up as though she were there again one afternoon, the day the smog turned the sun into a pale ghost in the sky. His grandmother called him into her room. She was sitting cross-legged on her bed, a small glass jar in her lap. The jar was dusty, and inside it was a tangle of seeds, tiny, large, round, flat, all mixed together in earthy shades. "This," she said, pressing the jar into his hands, "is for someday." "What is it?" he asked, peering through the glass. "Possibility," she said simply. His mother, standing in the doorway, gave an exasperated sigh. "Ma, don't fill his head with this nonsense. They're just old seeds. They won't grow in this air." But his grandmother didn't look away from Arun. "Keep them safe someday. You'll know what to do." A week later, she was gone. 10 years passed. Arun was 19, studying botany at a small university, one of the few left that still offered the subject. Most students in his class studied it for industrial applications: genetically engineered algae for biofuel, artificial oxygen filters made from moss strains. Asterisk. But Arun wanted to grow real plants. He still had the jar. It had moved with him from one cramped apartment to another, always sitting on a shelf above his desk. Sometimes he'd open it and let the faint earthy scent rise, imagining what kind of plants they might become by now. The city's air quality was so bad that schools closed on red days when breathing outside was dangerous. Street vendors sold overpriced packets of oxygen gummies that were supposed to make breathing easier, though most people suspected they were a scam. It was on one of those red days that Arun decided to try planting the seeds. He carried the jar up to his apartment's rooftop, a flat concrete slab surrounded by rusting metal railings, and began setting up old pots and buckets filled with soil he'd bought from a government-run greenhouse. One by one, he placed the seeds in the soil, whispering their possibilities like small prayers. "Grow," he told them. "Please." Neighbors watched from their windows. Some laughed. A man across the street called out, "You think plants will save us? You're wasting your time, boy." Arun kept working. The first week brought nothing. The second brought faint green shoots in a few pots. But within days, they withered, their stems turning limp and brown. Arun tried everything: adjusting sunlight exposure, using filtered water, shielding them from the smog with a plastic canopy. Still, one by one, the seedlings died. He recorded each attempt in a notebook, jotting down dates, soil conditions, and weather notes. But after months of failure, the pages began to blur into each other, just lists of plant funerals. One evening, frustrated and choking, on the rooftop's dusty air, he slammed the jar down on the table. Only a few seeds were left rattling inside. "This is pointless," he muttered for a long time. He stared at the jar. Then he picked it up, walked to the trash chute, and held it over the dark opening. His hand trembled, but something, a memory of his grandmother's eyes, stopped him. He closed the jar and put it back on the shelf weeks later. Without thinking much of it, he planted one of the last seeds in a small clay pot, and then something different happened. It sprouted, not weak and pale like the others, but strong, its stem a vivid green, the leaves unfolded wide and smooth. There, surface shimmering slightly in the sunlight, Arun checked on it constantly, day after day. It grew taller, developing delicate white flowers that released a faint, sweet scent. One morning, he noticed something strange. The air around the pot felt cooler, cleaner. He could breathe without coughing. He brought a small air quality sensor from his lab. The reading shocked him. Within a 1-meter radius of the plant, the air quality was 10 times better than anywhere else on the rooftop. Arun's hands shook as he flipped through his textbooks. The plant matched descriptions of Ethera purifica, a species believed extinct for over 50 years, known for its ability to release pollen that cleans toxic air particles. News spread quickly. At first, people doubted it, but when Arun invited neighbors to stand on his rooftop and breathe, their skepticism dissolved in the first lungful of clean air. Scientists visited, confirmed the plant's identity, and helped him propagate it. He taught volunteers how to grow it in protected conditions, distributing seeds to anyone willing to plant them. Within a year, green patches began appearing on rooftops across the city. The skyline, once a monotone gray, now dotted with pockets of white-flowered plants, shimmered in the sunlight. Birds returned. The air cleared enough for children to play outside again. It was during a community planting day that Arun found an old envelope tucked inside the jar. It was a letter from his grandmother. "If you're reading this, you've learned what I knew. I saved these seeds because I believed in you, not in your skill, but in your stubbornness. The world doesn't heal overnight, my boy, but one seed, planted at the right time, can change everything." Arun closed his eyes, breathing deeply, not just air, but possibility. No act of hope is ever wasted. What looks small, fragile, or impossible today might be the seed of tomorrow's change. You may not see the results right away or even in your lifetime, but persistence turns someday into today. Plant your seed. If this story inspires you, share it, because hope grows fastest when it's planted in many hearts.